They say some cameras can steal your soul, but what if a photo could steal your future? There's an old studio in town, one that still develops film even in this digital age. No website, no social media, just a flickering sign that reads Lumina Photo Studio. People say if you bring your film there, the pictures you get back will show you how you'll die. And last week, someone tested that rumor. This is what they found. Welcome back, everyone. And if you're new here, you've just stepped into the darker side of stories you're not supposed to hear. This channel shares real-feeling horror tales, stories that live somewhere between truth and nightmare. So if you love that slow, suffocating kind of fear that crawls under your skin, hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and stay with me until the end. Because tonight, we're not just talking about a haunted camera, we're talking about a studio that photographs your death before it happens. Let's begin. The sign above the shop flickered weakly in the drizzle. Lumina Photo Studio since 1982. Most people walked past it without a glance. In an age of instant filters and digital albums, who still developed film? But on that gray Tuesday, Maya Tan pushed open the door anyway. She wasn't there for nostalgia. She'd found a roll of undeveloped film in her late father's old Nikon, a camera he'd used right up until the week he died. The metal bell above the door jingled softly as she stepped in, greeted by the smell of chemicals and old paper. The man behind the counter didn't look up from the red-lit back room. "Just leave it there," he said, voice low and flat. "Come back tomorrow." Maya hesitated, then placed the roll on the counter. The man's fingers brushed hers, cold, slightly trembling. When she looked up, his eyes weren't on her. They were fixed on the glass display behind her, where dozens of photos hung, pinned in neat rows. Every face in those photos was caught in motion, laughing, blinking, living. But behind each one, just barely visible, was a shadow that didn't belong. When Maya returned the next day, the rain hadn't stopped. The air smelled of rust and wet pavement. The studio's sign buzzed faintly, one letter out. Inside, the lights were dimmer. The man, Mr. Kellen, according to the failing name tag, didn't greet her this time. He simply handed her a yellow envelope. "Developed and printed," he muttered. "No charge." Maya frowned. Why? But he had already turned back to the darkroom. His hands shook slightly as he shut the door behind him. She opened the envelope right there, curiosity winning over unease. There were 12 photos inside, all grainy, but sharp enough to make her stomach tighten. The first few were ordinary, her father smiling in their backyard, her mother hanging laundry, a blurry shot of Maya herself as a child, maybe 8 or 9, waving at the camera. But the last one, the 12th, made her skin crawl. It showed her father sitting on the porch steps, the Nikon hanging around his neck, and behind him, just over his left shoulder, was a figure. Tall, out of focus, the outline of a man, but with no face, only a smear of darkness where the head should have been. Maya blinked, tried to convince herself it was a shadow, a trick of the exposure. But no matter how she looked, the figure stayed there, leaning closer toward her father. Her father had died the following week. Car accident. Instant, they'd said. No witnesses. She shoved the photos back into the envelope, suddenly aware of the hum of the fluorescent light above her, the faint sound of water dripping somewhere in the back room. "Mr. Kellen?" she called. No answer. The darkroom door was slightly ajar now, red light spilling onto the floor. She hesitated, then pushed it open. The smell of chemicals hit her first, then the sight that froze her. On the drying line, dozens of photos, wet photos, hung in a row. But every single one of them showed the same thing, the same dark figure appearing behind different people in different places. Street corners, birthday parties, hospital rooms, always behind someone, always out of focus, always closer. In the corner, Mr. Kellen sat slumped in a chair, his face pale and wet with sweat. His hands were clasped around a photograph he couldn't stop staring at. When Maya stepped closer, he flinched. "You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't see them." What is it?" she asked. He looked up at her, eyes bloodshot. "They all come for it. Photos like yours. They want to see their past, but this place, it doesn't show the past." He lifted the photograph he'd been holding. It was of himself, sitting in that same chair, the dark room behind him, and over his shoulder, the faceless figure stood closer than ever. Maya stumbled back. That's just a trick, right? An overlay of old film?" Kellen's laughter was broken and wet. "Every picture shows how they'll die. I didn't believe it either, until I saw mine." He reached for something on the table, another envelope. Her name was written across it. "Don't open it," he whispered. "Please." She snatched it before he could stop her and bolted outside, rain hitting her face like needles. At home, the envelope sat on her desk for hours, heavy and silent. She tried to distract herself, watched videos, scrolled through feeds, called her mom, but her eyes kept drifting back to it. When the thunder rolled, she gave in. She opened the envelope. Inside, 3 photos. The first showed her apartment, lights off, curtains drawn. The second showed her standing by the window, staring out into the street. And the third, she was lying on the floor, her face turned toward the camera. Behind her, in the reflection of the window, the dark figure stood inside the room. The photo slipped from her hands. She turned to the window, heart pounding. Rain streaked the glass, nothing visible beyond, but her own reflection, faint and shimmering, seemed to twitch a fraction slower than her movements. She slammed the curtain shut and backed away. The next day, she went back to Lumina Studio. The door was locked. A sign read, "Closed permanently." Through the dusty glass, she saw the inside was empty. Shelves cleared, walls bare. No photos, no chemicals, no sign of Mr. Kellen. Only the faint outline of something smeared across the counter, like a handprint dragged in black liquid. That night, she dreamed of the photos. They hung above her bed, swaying gently as though stirred by breath. In each one, the figure had moved closer, until its featureless face pressed against the glass from inside the frame. She walked to a sound, a click, like a camera shutter. Her phone lit up by itself. The gallery app opened. A new photo had appeared, time-stamped 3:17 a.m. It showed her, asleep in bed, and behind her, faintly visible in the shadows, a tall, faceless shape. For the next week, she tried everything, deleting the photo, smashing the phone, moving apartments. But every device she touched glitched and produced the same image. Her reflection glowed in mirrors. Street cameras flickered when she walked by. Even strangers' photos sometimes captured her in the background with the figure trailing a few steps behind. She stopped sleeping, stopped leaving the house. One morning, her mother called, voice trembling. "Maya, I got a package from your address. There's a picture. It's you in front of our old house, but honey, you look..." The line cut. Maya stood in her darkened apartment, phone pressed to her ear. The silence on the other end was thicker than air. Then, a voice. Not her mother's, just a whisper, close enough to her ear that she could feel the breath. A click. They found Maya's apartment a week later, after neighbors reported a foul smell. The police noted that all the mirrors were covered with black tape, every phone shattered, every camera lens scratched out. Only one item remained untouched, a small photo on the kitchen counter. It showed Maya standing near her window, smiling faintly, rain pouring outside. Behind her reflection, faint but unmistakable, stood the faceless figure, a hand resting on her shoulder. The photo's timestamp was 1 day after her reported time of death. And when the coroner photographed the scene, the final image, the official crime scene photo, captured something none of them noticed in the moment. In the reflection of the kitchen glass, over the shoulder of the officer holding the camera, a tall, faceless silhouette watching them. If you made it to the end, you're officially part of the few who never looked away. Tell me in the comments, would you dare to develop your photos there? I'll see you in the next story, where every whisper hides a warning, and every picture might be your last.